I am so glad you brought up the Africanized bees because I put out a thing on Facebook and said, "Hey, I'm going to interview Jerry Hayes, bee expert. Do you have any questions?" And I got a phone call from a friend of mine who said, "I didn't really want to put this in writing because I'm embarrassed of it, but when I was a kid, I used to be afraid that the Africanized bees were going to get us all." And as soon as he said it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can remember vividly playing in the backyard with my friends talking about the horrible Africanized bees that were coming for us, and they would get into your air vents and climb through your windows and your house would be covered." What the hell happened?
So from Dadant and Sons in Hamilton, Illinois, I went and I was the chief of the apiary, the honeybee section for the Florida Department of Agriculture. And we found Africanized bees in Florida. They had come over on shipping traffic from Mexico to Tampa. And so we had some in South Florida. And I remember the first incident was a 900-pound horse was killed by these bees. And I was there at the autopsy. And when Africanized bees sting, one of their target acquisition things is CO2. So they'll fly up the CO2 stream, and they don't kill by envenomation, like stinging you so many times, like a rattlesnake. They'll go up, and then in this case, it went up the horse's nose and in its mouth. And in the autopsy, and I don't know how you can picture this, but the vet had probably several handfuls of bees he pulled out of the horse's lungs and stomach because they'd stung there, swole up, and so the horse died of asphyxiation.
Oh my God.
And so after that, over a couple years, we lost lots of pets and livestock and goats, and we had 2 human deaths, the same thing. So this was a big...
So it was real.
Oh my gosh. This was... Oh, yes, this was real. And so my fear in my job was that beekeepers were going to be regulated and ordinanced out of beekeeping, managed bees, because these wild bees were influencing the public opinion about things. And so people would think that beekeepers are part of the problem instead of part of the solution by providing different genetics in the thing. So yeah, it was a climb up the hill a little bit.
So what happened? Why did Africanized bees not take over everything? I want to get back to your career, but you did bring up Africanized bees.
That's fine. No, they have made it. So the thing is that we have a lot of...
I'm going to push that a little closer.
Yeah, we have a lot of hobby beekeepers. We have a lot of commercial beekeepers, and honeybees, queens, when a colony wants to swarm, divide and make another one of itself, virgin queens will go out into an area called a drone congregation area. This is where drones, the males of the bees from colonies all around, kind of congregate there, waiting for a virgin queen to fly through, and then she'll mate in the air with 15 or 20 of these. And so we have so many managed bees that don't have the defensive characteristics of Africanized bees that in many cases those defensive characteristics are calmed down because of this interbreeding with bees that are calmer and more docile. So you'll have some influences. You'll still find in cases you may have Africanized bees, but they're not defensive, but they'll do things Africanized bees do. They'll nest underground. They'll nest in a water meter box. They'll nest in a burrow of a turtle or a gopher or something. Those are characteristics of Africanized bees, not of our European bees. And so they'll have these characteristics that aren't defensive, but they indicate that they probably have some Africanized bees genes in them.
So that's really interesting. You don't often think about the fact that the bark of a dog is encoded in its genes, right? That's just the way that it is. But with bees, and you're talking about the behaviors of bees, it really becomes pretty apparent that their behaviors are genetically encoded in them. If you're saying by mixing these 2 different breeds of bees,
races
of bees, then you start having different behaviors by these groups. That's fascinating.
No, it is fascinating. And when you think, why do Africanized bees so grumpy? And so you have to look to Africa, that they were predated on by other animals. They have honey badgers. They have you and I, our ancestors, everything else. So this was Darwin in action. The meanest ones didn't get destroyed, and they didn't get their honey stolen or anything else. So this is what happened. And so what happened was that how they got over here was there was a professor in Brazil called Warwick Kerr. European bees are bees that come from Northern Europe, Germany, what have you, don't do very well in the tropics. They have adapted to living in cold areas, don't do well in the tropics. So all our bees here in the United States and Central and South America were European bees, but they don't do very well in the tropics. It's just too hot. They don't have seasonal cues. It's warm all the time. So this Warwick Kerr said, well, let's bring some bees over from Africa, that same latitude. Let's bring them over, these bees that are used to the tropics, and we'll be able to replace those because they will do better pollination for us and we'll have better crops. So he collected, a whole bunch of different kinds of bees and queens, and they were stopped at customs for like a week or so. And there again, Darwin in action. The only bees out of this group that lived were these really grumpy ones. All the other ones died. So they came over to Brazil, and he had a controlled research area. But long story short, the bees got out and basically took over.
No way. I had no idea. Humans are the ones that made all this happen.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa. Thanks for watching this podcast short. You can find the rest of the interview on my channel. If you like this video, I hope you'll hit the like button and consider subscribing. I release a new interview with an interesting person every Wednesday morning.